all these things that Campbell does really well, Anthony also does really well. He's younger, and he does a few of those things at just an elite level that Campbell just doesn't approach, particularly when it comes to the power.
The future of Roman Anthony in the major leagues. He is the top prospect in the Red Sox organization. It's prospect profile time. All right, Geoff Pontes, you're up first. How excited should Red Sox fans and baseball fans be about Roman Anthony hopefully coming to the bigs at some point this season?
Yeah, I think it almost probably happened just out of camp at Wilyer Abreu's, illness kind of carried on for a little bit longer. He made a recovery, and, I think that kind of put the kibosh on that, at least initially. It wouldn't shock me if we see Anthony very quickly. If there's any injuries whatsoever into that outfield, it wouldn't shock me if he's added to the 40-man roster and then up with the big league club and starting games, whether it's in right or left fields, fairly quickly. In terms of the overall skill set, he's been one of the most impressive prospects since, kind of the minute he stepped foot on a full season field over the last couple of years. Even when the numbers, in low A kind of weren't tracking, the underlying data was kind of telling a different story. That started to come to fruition in high A. He made his way up to double A at the end of his first full season. And then last year between double A and triple A really put up some big numbers and big performances. And kind of as the total package, just in terms of like a 5-tool type of prospect. It's a plus hit tool. I think when you factor in bat to ball skills, swing decisions, the ability to, consistently make pretty good contact at good angles. Some of the hardest contact you're going to see in all of baseball, among minor leaguers, he's in like the top, 0.5 percentile or something in terms of, 90th percentile EV and those sort of metrics. Runs really well. It's a plus arm. He's pretty good in center field, can play the position. I think is probably an above average everyday corner outfielder when it's all said and done. But, I think just overall, Roman Anthony is just a really strong, really interesting prospect. I don't know if there's anything else that you see or sticks out to you when you kind of break down Roman Anthony, JJ.
What sticks out to me is this is a guy, like you said, if there's an injury, this is the first call they're going to make. I wouldn't be shocked at all, though, also, if at some point this year, this is a guy you move guys to make room for. A lot of prospects, you don't say that. A lot of prospects, they got to kind of earn their way. They got to kind of put their foot in the door, and then they have to really show, okay, this guy's just so ready that we've got to figure out a way to, clear space eventually. Roman Anthony's at a different tier than that. Now, they don't need to move too fast. This is a guy who is yet to turn 21 years old. He's extremely young for the level he's at. He's been real extremely young for every level he's been at for the last couple of years, and he's performed everywhere he's gone. But in a system that we have as our number one farm system, in a system that has Kristian Campbell as kind of one of the stars, the top prospects to make an opening day roster, we expect. Here's Anthony, who ranks above him. And if you said why, it's like, okay, this is a tough 1-2 decision. But it really is that for everything that Campbell does, Anthony's doing it, and he's doing it at 1.5 years, 2 years younger than Kristian Campbell at the same level. There's really kind of dramatic upside here. There's real power. There's real on-base ability. There's the ability to be a very well-rounded hitter, probably going to fit in a corner, like Geoff said, but should be a solid outfielder eventually defensively as well. You put all that together, and it's a pretty special prospect. This is kind of the Red Sox seem to be doing this about once a decade. They did this, middle of last decade, kind of with the Mookie Betts group. They did this, middle of the decade before that. And here we go again. We look at the Red Sox with Meyer, Marcelo Meyer to go with Kristian Campbell, to go with Roman Anthony. It's a really good time to be a Red Sox farmhand. There's a lot of talent here. And that's even without even getting into the pitching, which, as Geoff saw, is pretty standout and pretty impressive as well.
How much of a gap was there when you were deciding on him versus Roki Sasaki for number one overall prospect? JJ, obviously, it's almost tough to compare them in a way. First of all, it's pitcher, position player, but also the fact that Roki has spent some pretty good time as a pro in a different world. I know it's not Major League Baseball, but certainly NPB is a different level from minor leagues in terms of being a professional player in the big leagues and coming over. Some people don't like that Japanese players, can win Rookie of the Year, more so for the guys that come over when they're 28, 29 years old. But anyway, how did you slice this up when you were looking into it?
I always love to make the point with that it is the Jackie Robinson Rookie of the Year award, and Jackie Robinson had played in a elite level, major league level league before he came to MLB. So that does fit for me. But no, if it would have been any other situation, I would say Anthony was a clear number one. But when you have a guy, you said it's the MPB, but pitching's also pitching. When you see Roki Sasaki's splitter, you kind of know that that's going to play against pretty much anyone, especially if he can locate in the zone. And so I would say that at the end of the day, it wasn't that hard of a call to put Roki number one. But until the day he signed, Roman Anthony was our number one prospect, and we were very comfortable with that. It wasn't something where it's like, man, there are times where you just look at it and say, well, someone has to be number one. This is not one of those cases. The fun debate we also had, though, is kind of leading up to that was who's going to be the Red Sox number one, because I could construct a pretty good case for Kristian Campbell as well. Probably could for Marcelo Meyer as well, but especially in Campbell's case, you could argue the defensive versatility may kind of allow him to edge out Anthony long term. It's a fun debate, and Geoff is one that you and I think have spent a lot of time talking about.
Yeah, I think when you look, both of those cases, ultimately, I think, we went with Sasaki over Anthony. We go with Anthony over Campbell, but it is closer, I think, than people probably even imagine. Both of these hitters are, top 5 prospects in the game, guys that blend a variety of skills really, really well. That can play somewhat of a premium position up the middle. If you consider, second base, of course, is an up the middle position. Premium or not is another question, depending upon how you break it down. But I think, ultimately that's kind of what it comes down to is all these things that Campbell does really well. Anthony also does really well. He's younger, and he does a few of those things at just an elite level that Campbell just doesn't approach, particularly when it comes to the power.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll be talking a lot more about him throughout the year, regardless of what goes on, right? And we'll, of course, be tracking him to see when he cracks the big leagues. We have every single organization covered with these prospect profiles, looking at the number one overall prospect per organization. We often dive into the organization as well. In fact, for the Red Sox, we spoke to Brian Abraham, who's a big part of the scouting and development process for Red Sox prospects. We did that a few episodes ago on Hot Sheet, so I advise you to check that out as well. And thanks for checking out this little clip.